We have a series. We're getting at least 6 games between the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. A 2-2 series I was not expecting. I expected the Jets to win this in 5 games, but we're getting at least 6, and this series could very well go 7. So I'm here to talk about it. I'm here to break down all 4 of these games so far. I have broken down the games, well, games 1, 2, 3 in my community tab on the community post. Because I've been doing it with the NHL and NBA this year. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you check that out to see my recaps of each playoff game. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're following along with that as I continue to do that throughout the playoffs. But getting back to this series and back to this Jets and Blues series, the reason why I had Winnipeg's been so dominant all year that I just thought they had this series pretty easily. They can win at 5. And the Blues, which I didn't realize, but they have won 12 straight to end this 12 straight home games post All-Star break to end the season, which is really impressive. So going into this, they definitely had momentum when it came to them getting home ice. They finished the season as the 8th seed. The Blues getting here to face the Jets, but still the Jets are a much better team. So I'm still thinking, even though the Blues have been hot at home, the Jets could get one at home and they could go up 3-1. They can go up 3-1 going into game 5 and win it there. But now we're getting 6 games, which is really interesting because this series is still anybody's series now. When it's being 2-2 and them going to a game 5 with the Jets going back to home ice. But in that first game, you had Jordan Carew with 1 goal and 1 point for St. Louis, and they lost that first game 5-3. So they were in it. It was a 2-2 game at one point, but then after it was tied 2-2, that's really when the Jets were able to take over and secure the win, led behind Cal Connor, who had Cal Connor and Mark Shefford. They both had 3 points, both having 1 goal apiece and 2 assists apiece. They both had 3 points, so they were able to get the win in game 1 to take a 1-0 lead in the series. Then in game 2, once again, game 2 was competitive as well. One thing about the Jets, they've been very competitive in the series. Even those first 2 losses they took, it's not like they got blown out. It's not like they were ever out of the games. Because this one, they had, in game 2, both teams attempted 22 shots on goal, had an even amount of shots. And then after the first intermission, it was tied up 1-1. But the Jets, they were able to score some, like the middle of the third, and they ended up winning the game 2-1 to take a 2-0 lead in the series. And at that point, so it definitely looks like, even though the Jets had struggled at some points, they still had a commanding lead. They had a 2-0 lead going into game 3, despite them going on the road. Still look like they could do something. Mark Shefford, once again, with 2 points, 1 goal, 1 assist, been doing his thing in these first 2 home games for the Jets. Then Colton Picaro, he had a -2, and he didn't have. I wrote his stats down because he was just a negative impact, and was the reason why why the Blues lost this game too. He was a -2. He didn't have any goals, assists, or points. He just didn't do anything on the floor, and really ended up being the reason that they lost that game. So now it's a 2-0 series heading to St. Louis for the first time for their home games, for them being on home ice. So then you get to game 3, and it took a minute to get to game 3. And then you have the Blues, they're home. They dominate this game. They win 7-2, which I was not expecting. They cut the series down to a 2-1 series, winning this game 3. This game 3 was surprising because games 1 and 2 are both pretty entertaining and pretty good games. Not to say this one wasn't entertaining, but it wasn't a good form of entertainment. A 7-2 blowout, and you wasn't expecting that. You was expecting maybe a 4-2 game, maybe 3-2. With them coming out there and dominating 7-2, it made you think maybe they have a chance in this series. Maybe they're not out of it. Because them, even though they had home ice, them dominating Winnipeg like that was really surprising. They had more points. They had less penalties. 3 of their 7 goals were power play goals, and they had more power play goals. They had more hits, and they won more faceoffs. So the Blues, they just dominated in essentially almost every category. Not everyone, but they dominated in a good amount of categories in that game 3. And then for the Jets, David Gustafson, he had 1 goal, and he was a +1. which he was the only positive impact on the team. Nobody else was a positive impact as far as plus minus goals. And plus minus I like. It's not the greatest stat to use because you definitely have to be watching the games to notice the impact. But it is a good determiner. Like, you can see what this person do, how much impact that they really have on the game. And David, he did have a good impact on the game. He wasn't bad, but that the whole team played bad in general. Even though he was showing positive impact, he did have one save. Definitely could have been better in that department because they gave up 7 goals as a team. So David, he didn't have a great game, but he was the only player that was solid that day. And then for the Blues, paid Buckerchief with 3 goals, 1 assist, accumulating 4 points from that, plus 3 and 5 saves. Had a great game for the Blues to help them get this win to make it a 1-2 series. And now they have home ice going into Game 4, which took place. And then in Game 4, it should be... Yeah, I got the notes right here. Game 4, this was an entertaining game. This was probably their best game. Never mind. But this was the best game of the series for sure. After the first intermission, it was tied up 1-1. Jake Neighbor scored his first goal at the playoffs to tie it for the Jets. Not for the Jets, for the Blues. Because the Jets actually, they started off with the lead in this one. They took a 1-0 lead. Looked like they had momentum. And then eventually, now this wasn't the best game. This wasn't the best game because this one also ended up being a blowout. I was thinking of either game 1 or 2, because I was thinking of game 2, but game 4 they ended up. I looked at my notes wrong because that was the series. They were able to tie the series in this one after they won 5-1. It was tied 1-1, and they scored 4 straight goals throughout the second and third intermissions to go up 5-1 and win the game 5-1, and they tied the series up two games apiece, which is very impressive. And they did this with 8 less shots on goal, and they won by 4. So very impressive stuff from the St. Louis Blues. And then the Jets had 12 more penalty minutes, gave up 3 goals in the second intermission, and the Blues, like I said, won 14 straight at home. But the Jets, them giving up them having that many more penalty minutes, because they had 2 more penalties. So, and then those minutes, they add up. So that just hurt them. And then they gave up goals in each intermission. They gave up 1 in the first, 1 in the third, and gave up 3 in the second. They just looked bad today. I don't know. And it's not a talent thing. I just think that the Blues are that good at home when they have home ice. Like some teams, they're usually a lower seed. They probably aren't going. And then it's hockey too, so anything could happen. But the Blues have dominated at home. Now they have to do this on the road in Game 5 because it goes back to Winnipeg. So they have to do this, or at least keep it close and send the game to overtime for them to have a chance. Because the home games for the Jets have been more competitive. The home games for the Blues are back-to-back blowouts. So it's been a solid series. Hopefully we can get another good game, because it's really just the first 2 games were good games, and these last 2 were blowouts in the Blues' favor. But it did tie the series, so we're getting to Game 5 and we're getting to Game 6. If it goes to 7, I don't know who that favors, because Winnipeg shouldn't be in a position where they're going 7 with the 8th ranked team in the West. But we'll see what happens. Kyle Connor had a good game. Well, he had a solid game. He had 1 point for 1 goal, but he was a -1 and had 2 saves. So at best, he was solid. He definitely could have played better because they needed that win. And then, because them being tied, it's not a good sign. And then Jordan Bridgerton, 31 save attempts, 1 goal given up, 30 saves, 96.8 save percentage for the Blues. Had a great game. Then the Blues, once again, back-to-back games on fire. The series is now tied 2-2, going back to Winnipeg and for Game 5. I do think the Jets win that game and take a 3-2 lead. But let me know what y'all think. Playoff hockey is here. Like I said, make sure y'all paying attention in the community tab, because every morning I post recaps for the NBA and NHL playoff games on my community tab. But with that being said, leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment in the comment section below. Who do y'all got winning this series? I still think Winnipeg takes it, but it might be going 7, which that won't be good depending on who they match up with in the second round. I had to I had to look at the bracket again to see who they'll match up with. Because if they go 7, then that could be bad for them.